Alright guys, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Here are the cards. And of course you can use all the arena cards in this game, which plays a pretty big factor. So let's just start with enchantments. So the first card I'd like to talk about is the Vitara Force Sentry. And a lot of these enchantments really have to do, or, not a lot. A lot of these cards in general have to do with how many Vitara orbs you have. And they get more powerful if you have more of these orbs. So a lot of people that try to just kill the mage are going to run into these problems because they have like regeneration 1, for instance, for each, or you can heal a health per upkeep for each orb you have. A lot of these things, it's like per orb you have, you can add a heal to the spell and things like that. So this is the first one I like to talk about. This one has to be in a zone with a Vitar, and all this does is before or after a friendly creature, you can just push an enemy creature one zone away. You can imagine with the tiles around that if you just keep pushing things in your corrosive pool, how powerful that's going to be. It just has to be within one zone, and you can just push it. Wait, what is it? Push a target creature within one zone away. So yeah, if there's just a pool right next door, you just push them in. And that's just, it costs 5 mana total, and it's an enchantment, and it's just awesome. And we don't see a lot of zone enchantments, and this one is a pretty neat one. I'm actually pretty excited to see what decoy will get used for zone enchantments, because this could be very, very powerful in domination games. Let's see what else we got. Sentinel Avatar. This is a very neat buff enchantment. Basically, anything within the same zone, the creature, if it's in a Vitar zone, it just gets unmovable and anchored. Very good. But if that creature's also guarding, you get armor +2 and melee +1. I can see a lot of cards like the Druid that has very powerful vine creatures but are rooted and can't move. Getting something like this where you can't be teleported out of the way, and then it just sits there and guards the orb, and then gets these major buffs on top of it. Very cool, very effective stuff. Anything with Vigilant will also be very good with this because they're just guarding all the time. Very interesting, very powerful spell. So those are the two like big orb specific enchantments. These next two excite me a lot. Astral Anchor. This is a zone enchantment where basically you can't be teleported to or from the zone. Anything. So all the creatures are locked in. Suddenly Force Push, Jetstream, anything that pushes you out of the zones become more important. But cards like Banish, Divine Intervention, or Teleport, which is in probably about 95% of the decks use Teleport, suddenly become useless with this. And the fact that you can wait to reveal it means, and it costs 2 and 4, means if someone just waits and wants to teleport you 2 zones away, and then you reveal this as a response, suddenly they wasted that 6 mana to try to teleport you, and then you have this cool little defensive spot. Very cool spell. Very, very neat. This other one, this is a promo card that's been out for a long time. They're finally releasing it, Plagued. Very cool card. Basically, it's a curse. It's poison. And basically you can you just get a direct point of damage every creature in the zone during upkeep. It has to be living, of course, because non-living is poison immune. A lot of people think the Necromancer immediately when they say this or see this. I actually think more of the Warlock personally. The Necromancer and most of its creatures are poison immune. And honestly, I would want to put this on something that has regeneration, lifelink, something where that 1 point it's going to take per turn, it's going to be able to gain back really effectively. It is a solid card, don't get me wrong, to put on like on an enemy mage, things like that, so it has to deal with it. But it's just a really neat card for a lot of things, and I think the Warlock would be best since it has a Blood Reaper that can automatically just regenerate life. And that is all the enchantments. Alright, so this is going to be a really quick section. This is the equipment cards that come in this expansion, and it only comes with one. It's a promo card that just got released. It's official now, Galeforce Ring. Solid card. Basically, it doesn't do any more damage, but everything that is a wind spell gets +2 to its effect. And a lot of people look at this and go, well, it's just bad. But the thing about wind spells, and especially in Domination with special tiles, is that push effect. If you push them through a wall, like they take a whole nother set of attacks. Or if you push them into a wall, like the arena walls or something, you can suddenly look at that extra 3 dice of damage, or that extra 3 dice plus a burn, or that loved Wall of Thorns technique where you push them through and a mage takes 10 dice of damage. This just helps secure it. With Jetstream, it has a 4-up to push. This would give you a 2-up, which it just guarantees it more. But there's a lot of other cards out there that push things. This kind of just gives you that better chance to daze along with pushing and things like that. With the special tiles, you could push things into corrosive pools or, push them into a molten lava pit. This just helps secure it more. And for 3 mana, very simple thing. And I'll get to some of the attack spells that this really helps out later. And drink this water. Sonic water. To give me that speedy recovery. Yeah. Speedy cooldown. I've got a giant light, if you can't see camera. It's just on me. Yeah, it's hot. So, here's the attack spells. There's a number of attack spells. Some of them use the orbs, some of them don't. Let's talk about the first one, Windstorm. Very solid card. It has the alternate wizard. I think it was talked about, released a long time ago. But this, basically, you have a sweeping air attack. So that Galeforce Ring I showed earlier. This helps combo it more, so it's a 6-up push. And the fact that you could push 2 guys through walls or 2 guys against arena walls or into pits of, lava or whatever, or caltrops, very cool attack spell. This really helps you get better positioning while doing some damage. And it only costs 4 mana, 1 spellbook point. This is a pretty solid guy. It is a full action to cast. That's the one disadvantage it has. So you can't put it on things like the Wizard's Tower, but you can put it on things like Thought Spore. And as a Thought Spore, a sweeping attack like this, very, very solid. It costs very little mana, and to be able to get that 2 plus extra dice if you do it against the wall or something, very cool. The next one, Sandstorm. This one's really interesting. Basically, it's a zone air attack. We have Chain Lightning right now, but we really don't have something like this. It goes with earth and air. We don't really see a mixture of that much, and we have this. It can daze you, it can push you, it can do all those things. The fact that it's unavoidable, it's zone. But you get pushed in a random direction. That's kind of interesting. It costs 8 mana. This is just a really cool, neat attack spell. It is full action, so you're not going to be able to put it on your Wizard's Tower, but Thought Spore? I'm pushing Thought Spore. All right. Okay, so Vitarian Energy Wave. This is a really weird, interesting, cool guy. Basically, the number of Vitar orbs you control enhances this attack's power. So it starts out with 2, and it's a zone attack. But for every orb you get an extra dice. And it doesn't only target 1 zone, it targets 2 zones. So it costs 12 mana, which seems like a lot, but the fact that it's a 2-zone attack for 1 attack is kind of insane. You can take out swarms very quickly with this. Let's see what else we got. I kind of show these two together. We'll do them separately. Hurl Meteorite. It costs 12. It's a full action to cast, but it does the most damage out of any attack spell in the game right now. 9, and then it has instead of slamming like a Hurl Boulder does, this could daze or stun you. It has a decent chance to stun. So the big reason why this card costs so much is because its range is 0 to 3. So if you put it on a wand, you could just kind of sit there and just hurl out very high damage spells to really try to sink in that damage. It is a level 3, so you can't really equip it onto, you can't put it on a Wizard's Tower or a Thought Spore or anything like that. So this is just a very neat mage-only card that keeps you out of danger and lets you do the damage. Very cool card. Dragon's Breath. This is another range 3 card. This is a very cool card because basically you get to do a sweeping-like attack as a fire spell. So against druids, you can kind of just obliterate their plants really quickly. And since it works like sweeping, you get to roll, burns separately for everything. And since it's 0 to 3 range, you have all sorts of options. The second target has to be in an adjacent zone, so you kind of have to plan it out right. It's a very interesting card, and the fact that fire doesn't have a range 3 yet really gives you more options with a warlock that lets you sort of stay out of danger while inflicting tons of damage. What is this? The Bolt of Vitara. This one is awesome. Basically, it costs 8, and it's a quick cast. And basically, you get mana drain and piercing for each Vitara orb you control. And it's an Air 2. And I'm just reading it right now, but I'm going to tell you why it's so awesome. Basically, if you put this on a Wizard's Tower, if you put this on in a Thought Spore, or even if you put it on an Elemental Wand, you can do all sorts of mana drain effects. You can really control what the opponent is thinking and doing, and really mess up their plans by just taking away some mana. If you control 3 orbs, suddenly that mana drain 3 is insane. And it's lightning, so it can daze and stun, and if you manage to stun the enemy mage or one of the creatures, it pays a lot. For 8 mana and a range 2, it's solid. This is a great card. And that's all the attack spells. Alright, let's talk about some other things. Let's talk about Conjurations! Okay, this is a promo that's been out for a while, the Wall of Force. The Force Master doesn't really have good walls right now. And this is a incorporeal one, and basically I think the original promo was 3 health, and they upped it to 4. And the thing about incorporeal is basically only rolling 1s to do damage on it is so effective that I really consider this to have a 12 health wall. Because you're really not going to be able to do a lot of damage consistently. And the fact that, the Force Master or whoever can just heal the wall during upkeep makes it a really cool, interesting thing. Of course, it's incorporeal, so if you have things that affect it, great. It's so cheap, it's 6 mana, that most things that are incorporeal, they paid for that. So I really like this wall because it's just, you can do a lot of very interesting things with the Force Master, especially comboing it with some of the other flying creatures it has. The Vitarack Gates. Okay, this is another incorporeal. Basically, you put this in a zone, and whenever a creature is in a Vitar orb zone you control, it can just take a move action, and it can just teleport to this. So this is just a frontline card that you control a spawn point in the back next to a Vitar orb, and then you just have creatures move in the Vitar orb and just move in the front with this. This is a major positioning card, and it's a big deal in Domination. That coupled with things like the secret passages means things are going to be all over the board, and it's no longer a game of I can hinder you just with one wall. It's a game of I need to guard everything. And it's pretty cool. I really dig this. It is a teleport spell, so, we saw some enchantments that were kind of anti-teleport, but, so it kind of secures and locks us down, and there'll be a really interesting dynamic with that. I'm really curious to see what happens with this card in the future. All the conjurations in this expansion are so solid. Raincloud. The Druid loves this card because it's Water 1, and the Wizard loves this card because it's Air 1, and together they're very cool. It's basically, this is one of the first moving conjurations that exists. During upkeep, you can just move it by paying a mana, I believe it is, something like that. And basically it hovers over a zone and flies there, and basically gives everything in the zone Flame -2, Acid -2, and Regenerate 1. So it's a really cool way to heal up and keep yourself good. Your opponent gets Regeneration 1 too, but as a bonus to you owning it, during upkeep, you can remove a burn or a corrode by paying its cost to remove it. with this guy. So the ability to remove corrodes is a really tough thing to do in this game right now. The disarm tricks, the re-equipping tricks, and then Wand of Healing is like your best bets. This gives you all sorts of new options to mages that didn't really have a good option before. I'm really curious to see how this is going to work out. Intangible's not here because he's gone. He's in Colorado with his new wife. So I have to do this alone. I'm so lonely. I'm just talking to you, camera. No, there's actually someone else in this room right now, but you can't see them.
Nope.
He's the secret mancer. Okay, he doesn't even have like an avatar. He doesn't draw himself in. He needs to draw himself in. Okay, so this next one, he's just sitting here laughing. Okay. All right, so this next card here is another promo that people have been really talking about, especially with the last Gen Con. The Gravcore. Very cool card. Basically, all creatures within 2 zones lose flying. So you no longer have this, like fast Rajan Furies shenanigans that, where it's like, I'm going to fly over you and just keep getting lines, savagery. You don't have to worry about that sort of stuff because flying creatures are actually hindered. And with the new tiles that have like corrode and burn and things like that, it really helps kind of funnel guys in and makes them think about what they're going to do more position-wise. It costs 8 mana. It's very solid. It's very hard to kill this guy. It's like just as hard as a Battleforge. And honestly, this is a very interesting card because most decks that you see, they have maybe 1 or 2 answers to flying and they rely on those 2 things. This gives you a solid answer that puts everything on the ground. Another promo that is official now, Altar of the Iron Guard. For 4 mana, any creature you summon, you can just put a guard on it. How cool is that? Normally a guard, I consider those to be worth an action. And depending on the level of your creature, like Arouse the Beast, it costs a level. So if you can get up to, adding up total to level 4 of guards off of this, I consider that very useful. Granted, it's a guard versus an action, but suddenly spawn points and things like that become much more important because they're all going to have guards on them. Also, the Necromancer really benefits from this because it basically walks around with the Libero and just be like, now I have a creature with guard. The Druid can really benefit. There's a lot of good things and very interesting things that can come out of this, and I'm excited to see what happens with this card as well. The final conjuration. Drink this. It's hot. Okay, so the final conjuration that we have here is the Galaxus. This is like the mages have figured out the technology and they built this. And basically during upkeep, you just get a Vitara. Where did I put it? One of these point guys that help you win the game in Domination. It's really good, especially since you have some zones, like there's a tile where you spend a Vitara and you can just summon a creature that isn't from your book. This helps you really get those, or helps you speed up the game so you can win faster. There's all sorts of uses for this, and this card really makes me think if there should be a tournament, or when you play with your friends, if you should roll to see what type of game you want to play. Because if you make one book, and if you roll to say, do I want to play normal arena or domination, this kind of makes you think, should I put this in my book or not? And that kind of random chance to see the type of game you're going to play, I think will create very interesting books that aren't super specific to one type or the other. This card's great. And that is all the conjurations. All right, so here's all the incantations. First one is the Vitara healing song. She sings. This one is cool. Basically, you target a living creature, cost 5. For every orb you have, you get additional 2 healing, and it starts with the base 2 healing. It's just it costs 1 spellbook point, and it costs 5 mana. And if you control 2 or 3 orbs, you pay. It's such a good card. Let's see. It's solid. I don't know if I would take this for anything but a Holy Mage, though. Just putting that out there. The Vitara Suppression. This is another important card, kind of like with the Galaxis. There is a reason why it's epic, and that is because you spend 6 mana, and during upkeep, no Vitar orbs can function, so you don't get those points. So if you're losing, and your only hope is to kill the enemy mage, you play this card so that your opponent can't win, and you can hope to kill them next round. This just gives you all sorts of very interesting delays. I also think this, for a lot of decks that don't want to focus on taking, one of the orbs early game, this buys you that extra round so that they can't get that extra point to help them win, and allows you to buff yourself or buff your game enough so that you can get that advantage in the longer term. All right, so we have this other one, Cascading Wave Force. Basically, you can target a creature up to 1 zone away, and you pay 3 mana, and you push them. And then what you do is, in that new zone, you can pay 3 mana, and you can push another creature. And you can literally keep paying 3 mana and keep pushing creatures for as long as there's a creature that you haven't pushed, it's in another zone. You can't push creatures through walls because that would be ridiculous, but this allows you to really just get everything out. Just move it all out of the way. Pretty cool card, very interesting concept, and it's so cheap. And that is all the incantations. Alright, so this is the final section of cards, and these are all the creatures. So I'm going to start with the 2 that I think I mentioned earlier, the Slack, the Orb Guardian. As a creature by itself, he's really useful in Domination because he has the special Immovable and Anchor trait while it's in a Vitar Orb. Out of Domination, probably wouldn't want to play it as much, but there are tiles that let you summon it outside of your spellbook point, which is really cool. And, honestly, he is a solid creature to put in any book when you're playing Domination. Those 2 little traits there are so good. Its older brother here, the Uslak, the Great Orb Guardian, just the same as the other one. He's just stronger. He's going to actually be really tough to deal with when you're first playing, because he's just a decently tough creature. Putting in your book, he's okay. Honestly, you wouldn't really want to summon him a lot, but he's just solid for a Domination game. Let's move on. Let's see here. Okay. So the Slacknir, the Goblin Chieftain. This is one of the few creatures that gives a arena buff to friendly goblin creatures. Basically, all the goblin creatures become elusive, so they can stab whatever they want. It's important to note that, of course, you can't stab a zone, or you can't stab a Vitar Orb to gain control of it until after you've killed the Orb Guardian. Because the Orb Guardian means you can't take it. But after that, if something's guarding it, like someone's taken an orb, those goblins can just punch that orb and just be like, now you don't have it. And that's not the only thing that makes this guy interesting. Giving all goblins elusive, awesome. But as a quick cast, he can target 1 to 2 or 1 zone away or his zone, and he can literally just push one of his friendly goblins 1 zone away. So you can literally go, all right, you need to be 1 zone because you need to move 2 next round, and he just kind of pushes them. Really cool. This gives a sort of weird positional advantage, and the fact that it couples with the elusive trait means you can do all sorts of shenanigans that are really fun. I'm excited for Goblin decks. Skilax, Taunting Imp. We've never had a Taunting Imp before. He is... My light went out. Skilax is a demon. Lights go out. He's legendary, so you can't give it a Blood Reaper. But he works so well with the Adramalic Warlock. Basically, whenever something's on fire during upkeep, if something has if something's on fire and he's in that zone, he gets Regenerate too. That's not it. He gets to place a taunt token on a 5-up during his attack, and he has a 6-up dodge. So that taunt token means they're going to come back at you, you dodge it, and they've wasted their action. And then if something's on fire, he just gains health back. He's a really fun, interesting creature that I think goes perfect with the Adrammelech Warlock. It is a Warlock only. He goes pretty good with the normal Warlock, but, he's just a very solid idea for distracting enemies. So I'm actually curious to see how he's going to work with the Familiar that can cast a fire attack or a curse spell. These demons, man. I don't know. So I'm really curious to see how he works with like Cesarix, I think his name is, or something like that, and things like that. Okay. So Askuda. Askuda is a very interesting creature because he has a zone attack that basically does critical damage. It can daze everything. When you compare him to things like the Timberwolf, which I use Timberwolf as a base for most of my comparisons when it comes to animal or just any creatures in general, he has pretty much the same stats plus the piercing 1, and then you get the benefit of having a zone attack. That light does not like me. So he costs 13 mana, which seems expensive at first, but he's so situational that if you do manage to use it in a swarm build or something like that, you can suddenly be looking at not only dealing with basic damage because he is critical, but making him dazed so they can't hit you back. Woo. So, the last creature we're going to talk about is the Guard Dog. This card will have so many uses, not just in Domination, but also normal arena. It costs 8 mana, and its stats don't quite line up to how things like the Timberwolf works. It is an animal canine, of course, but it gains the Vigilant trait when it's in a zone with a friendly conjuration. That is so good. Vigilant is always one of those amazing abilities that not very many cards have. And the Guard Dog really allows for like a Warlord to be aggressive or a Beastmaster to join the pack and then, get a conjuration where things are happening and then just sit there and with that Vigilant trait, if you can get one guard off and the enemy has to force its attack to it, you are in value town. With that 3 armor and 6 health, it has pretty good survivability. Most people don't want to attack something with 3 armor, and this is just a really fun, neat, good card for Beastmaster, Warlord, and really anyone in general. So, anyway, that's all the cards. Hope you guys enjoyed, and have fun playing. Oh yeah, if you guys could just like on our Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, check us out on the forums. We're always posting new stuff, and in general, play more Mage Wars. You're all beautiful.